Kia ora koutou, I'm Jay from 3 Minute Board Games, and welcome to a few minutes more about Brass Birmingham. Now this is going to be a semi-regular video series I do about games that, after I've done the 3-minute recap, there's still more I want to say about the game. So it's going to be a little bit more relaxed, and we're going to talk more about my opinions and my thoughts on the game, rather than focusing in on the mechanics and whether you'd like the game like we would on the recaps. And I must preface this one with the subtitle. This is Brass Birmingham, an apology to Mr. Wallace. See, I come into board gaming from a different place than many people. I was originally a wargamer and someone who liked big Ameritrash games from the 80s and 90s. So when everyone else was talking about Kalis and Brass and all these titles that came out in the 2000s, I kind of bypassed them. They just weren't my thing. I was more interested in giant robots and explosions and conflict than I was in laying the foundations of a great train network. Now this has changed somewhat in the last few years. I even have a Stefan Feld game. That's something new for me. I've also picked up things like Le Havre. I've started revisiting some of these older classic Euros that I just bypassed during the early 2000s. And I'm having a really good experience with doing that. And you see, as the original Brass looked very much like one of those very boring rail games I played in the 90s that I found to be totally and utterly joyless experiences. It just looked boring. Brass isn't just a dry network placing game, it's something a little bit different. And that's what I really like about it. It really spoke to me and my group. You see, my group likes things like Battlestar Galactica, games with high interaction and high conflict. We were expecting this to be a game of multiplayer solitaire. We were totally and utterly wrong. But the reason it works so well for my group and why it's a gold medal game is that interconnection within it. You want people to use your resources. You want to place iron down so other people use it. If someone places an iron mine and dumps it on the market and reduces the cost to develop, that makes your game better. The game is full of these positive interactions. And while you are kind of trying to outmaneuver your friends and one-up them in this, there's an overwhelming feeling of positivity whenever that happens. And that's kind of different and kind of special, and not something I've seen very often in a game like this. And this is not the first time even this year that I've sat down and played what I thought would be a pretty ordinary train game and been really pleasantly surprised. Maybe I'm just getting older, maybe train games appeal to people in their 40s. Who knows, but I'm really starting to dig them. But there's a few other mechanics in this that I additionally didn't think much of, but the more I've played it, the more they've grown on me, including these. Now the thing with the cards is, when you first get them, you think, well, they're only used for one of the 6 actions. They're not really that big a deal. And you go through the game just kind of playing them willy-nilly. But then, towards the end of the era, you're holding 2 cards, and your options become fewer and fewer. And it's at this point that you start going, maybe I should have managed these cards a lot better. One of the other little things I discovered the more I played was just how important this board is and how different the buildings are. You see, when I first played, I assumed that higher tier just meant better. What I didn't realize is that there's a bunch of extra little wacky strategies in here. For example, the tier 3 manufactured goods up here don't have a linkage thing on them. So if someone's got a whole bunch of rail links down, you can just plop one there and it's not going to give them any extra points. And it's a little hidden, subtle stuff like that on this map that adds that extra level of depth I just wasn't expecting. So as a rule, the higher a game appears on my shelf, the more I like it. It's not a 100% carved in stone thing, as sometimes I just need to find a space, but this is where Brass is going to end up living. Right on the top shelf. So yeah, I absolutely recommend Brass Birmingham. I think it is a fantastic game, and it's kind of awkward that I haven't played Brass, even though I've had the option to for nearly 13 years. And the lesson I'm going to take from that is, maybe I should pay attention when a lot of people say, hey, this is a really good game, you should totally and utterly play it, and not just go, not sure about the theme, or not sure it's got trains. So that's some of my additional thoughts about what I thought about Brass. And if you enjoy this video, like it, subscribe to the channel, and come support us on Patreon. Take care.